Sometimes, as a writer, and I imagine as a reader, just as a reader as well, but I've never been a reader without being a writer, so I can't say for sure. But sometimes, as a writer, you come across something that makes you just say, okay, I don't have that. Whatever that thing is, whatever type of fuel that rocket is running on, I don't have it. As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner is a novel that does that to me. The Short Happy Life of Francis Macomber is a short story that does that to me. And quite frankly, this poem is one that makes me say, okay, you search for irony as a poet and you search for some weird little crevasse inside the sort of rock that is the poem to start just sort of prying yourself up. I wouldn't I would never have seen this one. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I am Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion. A poetry discussion that will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously the poetry discussion playlist, now over 200 poems strong. And number two, the Emily Dickinson poetry discussion playlist, which should be, I don't know off the top of my head, it is either in the 60s or approaching the 60s of videos long. So this poem is one that I would wager to bet is not particularly well known outside of people who sort of concentrate on Emily Dickinson. It is known by the first line, "'Tis not the dying hurts us so." It reads as such: "'Tis not the dying hurts us so, 'tis living hurts us more. But dying is a different way, a kind behind the door. The southern custom of the bird that ere the frost are due accepts a better latitude. We are the birds that stay. The shrivers round the farmer's doors, for whose reluctant crumb we stipulate." Oh, you saw the next poem I'm doing. "We stipulate till pitying snows persuade our feathers home." That's a little. It's the next poem I'm doing. Maybe sometime soon. That's going to take some work to get into. Let me read this one more time because I screwed it up so bad. "'Tis not that dying hurts us so, 'tis living hurts us more. But dying is a different way, a kind behind the door. The southern custom of the bird that ere the frosts are due accepts a better latitude. We are the birds that stay. The shrivers round the farmer's doors, for whose reluctant crumb we stipulate till pitying snows persuade our feathers home. 'Tis not that dying hurts us so." Okay, so we're raising the idea of death. Someone's death. "'Tis living hurts us more." We have a dearly departed, but we are the dearly still here. But dying is a different way. So living is in the existentialist sense, is a constant pain. Living is a constant to do. Living is waking up one more day and having to say, all right, I'll do it again. But once we've lost someone, they're behind the door. They're gone. We do not have them here. And then we have this turn in the poem. The southern custom of the bird that ere the frosts are due accepts a better latitude. Okay, so we are here now comparing the dearly departed with a bird that migrates south for the winter? I would not have made that connection. I especially would not have made the connection. We are the birds that stay. We're here for the winter. We're the ones that are too dumb to go ahead and go. We stick around and suffer through the winter when those smarter birds have already gone. The shrivers round the farmer's door, for whose reluctant crumb we stipulate, till pitying snows persuade our feathers home. And we will continue to do this winter thing, suffer through the winter, until we get the good sense to go too. But Emily Dickinson, I have said here in this video, I have said time and time again, I will say every time that I speak about Emily Dickinson, probably, or at least hint at it. Emily Dickinson is nobody's fool. Emily Dickinson had written, I suppose I should say, she has migrated after all, 1,775 poems, and many of these poems have to do with the idea of depth. In fact, many of these poems have to do with the personification of death, and many more of these poems have to do still with the dead themselves. Now, oftentimes, when Emily Dickinson is giving us a speaker that is already deceased, she just glosses right over it. She just gives it to us. We, reading the poem, we just accept it. We take it. And I think, with that sort of the credulity that we lend to the speaker in these poems, we don't really think about the implications. And the speaker in many of Emily Dickinson's poems is at least, probably, already dead, gone, a ghost. Now, there is an implication here which is made, but is not explicated. The southern custom of the bird that ere the frosts are due accepts a better latitude. We are the birds that stay. Those birds. I'm here in Missouri, sort of in the middle of things. We have very hot summers and very cold winters. We have a lot of humidity, and we have quite a bit of frost and snow and sleet, all of these things. We get the best of all worlds. We even have tornadoes to boot. So I have experience with these birds that fly south for the winter. Even though Mizzou plays in the SEC, I still deal with these birds that fly south for the winter. I was hoping that once Mizzou got in the SEC, maybe the winters would let up a little bit. They haven't. Those birds, the ones that fly south for the winter, they come back. In fact, there's this great big bird. I do a lot of walking at one of the parks around here. There's this great big bird. I have no idea what it is. He's got this weird neck, this strange bill. He's massive. He leaves for the winter, and he comes back. Vacations, I suppose, probably, in Florida. And he comes back, and he makes this flight along the tree line about 6 o'clock every morning. Right down there. He comes back. I see him starting in the spring. What are we saying here? What are we saying? What are we implying here about the dead? If all they're doing is migrating, well, those dead come back, don't they? This is an argument which would be readily accepted in the canon of Emily Dickinson poetry. It would be accepted in the canon of Emily Dickinson poetry. It'd be right there in there. We have plenty of dead speakers. But she has done this. She has created this poem. She has accepted. And so, a little bit of the backstory about this, as long as I'm understanding what is happening here, this poem was left in a like a consolation letter. Someone had lost their uncle or father, I believe. And Emily Dickinson wrote them a letter saying, or condolence letter. Here are my condolences, yada, yada. And then left this poem. So here, Emily Dickinson is giving us what she thinks about life and death. Yeah, I mean, life's okay. We get some summers, but yeah, we go through the winters too. The dead, they have the summer here and they fly south for the summer there. And she just leaves this poem at the end of a condolence letter. I mean, imagine getting this in a Hallmark letter, right? Imagine getting this in your Hallmark letter once your uncle passes. Just wild stuff. I don't have this. I don't have that Hemi. I don't have whatever octane this engine accepts that wrote this poem. Because it's a letter of condolence in itself, this poem. Look, you've lost your loved one, but you have to understand, it's not just like they say they're better off now than they were here. It's really that they're so much better off there, eventually they'll convince us to come too. And then we get some of the world of Emily Dickinson's poetry in here as well, in this just sort of brilliantly explicated idea, or not explicated, this brilliantly left out idea. Less is more, Emily. She's left out explaining, well, sometimes they come back. It's just brilliant. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you enjoy what you see here, hitting the like button really helps me out here on the channel. If you are here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping videos every Monday about poetry, but also short stories, novel, read-alongs, etc. So if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more literary goodness, and I hope to have you back for the next one.